What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are throwing up our jazz hands and attempting to collaboratively, competitively rank the 11 best musicals of all time.
I'm gonna tell you right now, before we even jump in, it's gonna be chaos, madness. Everything's gonna be unhinged. You could even say it's gonna be pure lunacy. I will note real quick before we jump into the pod that this episode was produced and recorded during the 2023 SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes. They are still ongoing at time of recording. Please support them however you can. Get on the picket line, send them money, tweet good things to support them. Our writers and actors deserve to be paid fairly. And that's that. Okay, so we have a first-time podcast guest joining us, and I don't want to go any further without introducing them. Just getting thrown into the podcast hellfire that is our collaborative rankings pod. Sophie Holsinger of TikTok, Film Talk. You're on Twitter as well. Welcome to the pod. How's it going?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. I'm honored to be here for my podcast debut. I'm riding a high right now. I know you guys are talking about this in a couple of weeks, but I saw Stop Making Sense last night in IMAX, the new restoration. I can't get the songs out of my head. Speaking of music. But yeah, I'm well. Happy to be here talking about musicals with you guys.
I'm jealous you got to see it last night. I have to wait, another week or so, but it's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
Yep. Enjoy.
Yeah. It's going to be sick. Okay, cool. Let's take the stage. We have some things to go over before we do this. So we've done this once before here on this podcast. We've done a collaborative ranking before. It was just Ben and I. So Sophie, you're in the mix now, and I think that changes a lot of things. We've got some new rules. We've got a new setup that we have so wonderfully borrowed from the lovely people over at Screen Drafts. So go listen to them, go follow them. Screen Drafts, if you ever need us to be on your pod for a collaborative draft, we are always available.
Yes.
Absolutely. And thank you for these rules. So we're doing musicals today. We're going to try and do the 11 best musicals of all time. I don't know how we're going to do that. It sounds literally impossible. I will say, I just had a double shot of espresso at 5 p.m. in the evening, and I have about 25 minutes left of La La Land. So if that is a hint to my headspace right now, I'm here to fucking win and have a great time. Okay, Sophie, first I want to know, what's your relationship with musicals? When I DM'd you, you were super in, and you said yes very, very quickly. So I want to know, are you a big musical fan?
Yes, I have been watching musicals for as long as I can remember. My mom was a theater kid, so I grew up with all of the classical musicals. And then, like a lot of kids in my generation, I kind of fell for the Disney Channel original movie musical model and was obsessed with High School Musical and Camp Rock and all of that. And then as I've fallen in love with film as a whole, I've discovered so many gems, so many amazing movie musicals along the way. And I'm lucky enough to live in New York right now, and that allows me to see a lot of live musical theater as well, which is something that I equally enjoy. So yeah, I'm all in for musicals.
That's fantastic for this episode of the pod. Can't wait.
I love that. Mine also, I mean, it's a thing that like my mom was super into, and I just instinctively fought against it. Basically, it was that in Western. She's like, you should watch these, you're gonna love them. I'm like, no, if you like them, they can't be good. So I did not grow up loving musicals other than like the Disney animated stuff. Like I was just at the right age for that Disney renaissance of Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. Like, so that was like my experience with musicals, and then a couple other ones like Willy Wonka, whatever. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more exposure to musicals, and I love them. They're great. They're so much fun. I'm very excited to see what we all are picking as our favorites here, because there are some that I know are just, renowned and loved that I absolutely hate. There's one that I refuse to watch. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how this all unfolds. This is going to be fun.
That just could not be a better segue into my history with musicals, Ben, is that the only musical I watched growing up as a kid was Grease. I remember going to the theater, watching Grease every time that my local cinema like played it. And literally like there's stories that my mom tells me of like watching it and basically like being so young, I couldn't really like talk, but I would say like Sandy and Danny and Kaneki. I would like point out the characters. So I'm going to choose to believe that that's a true story. It might not be, but
Yeah.
in my headcanon, it's totally real
I like
because
it.
Grease fucking rocks. And so I love musicals. That was really the only musical I had seen up until La La Land came out in 2016. And 2016 was like before I was really like into movies. But that movie I ended up going to see 3 times in the theater, like day after day after day. And I was just like, musicals are magic. Like this was fantastic. I was just transported somewhere for 2 hours. And I didn't really understand the power of movies at that time. So I think musicals have a really like influential foothold as like the firsts that I saw in terms of a lot of movie type things. I know this is going to resurface as we go, and I'm sure that there is going to be some contest and some contention, but musicals are generally pretty easy to spot, but sometimes not. So I am curious if we all have our own definition of maybe what a musical is. We as a group have decided what the rules are for this draft, but Ben, I know that in the DMs you were trying to push me. You were trying to peer pressure if we could get Ferris Bueller in this draft, which I said absolutely not. What's a musical in your eyes, Ben?
I think it's something where a song, dance, whatever, pushes forward the narrative. I think that's, pretty straightforward. So, I try to get Ferris on any list that I can. I couldn't get him on the Nolan list either, somehow. I'll eventually get him on one of our lists here. But I just think, as long as some sort of song and dance pushes forward the narrative, then for the most part, that's a pretty, way to classify a musical.
That's fair. Sophie, what about you?
For me, I think musicals are just kind of like, I always think of the word whimsical, like just a whimsical way of storytelling, and it kind of turns like these ordinary, mundane moments into these huge spectacles. And emotions are shared like so sporadically and through dance and through song and music. And it just creates like this magical landscape. Like it just feels like another world.
I'm right in between both of you. I can't quite get on the Ferris Bueller level, but I can. I do understand that like the music is a very core part of moving a character or story forward, right? And I think that definitely is what a musical is in my eyes. And sometimes as I've been watching movies to kind of prepare for this, some of the older ones, it's a little more gray, I would say. It's a little bit more like music is kind of just a guiding light in terms of what the movie is, and it is incremental, it is core to the film itself, but it might not necessarily be a straight powerhouse musical like La La Land where there's a music number every 10 minutes, right? So for this pod, we have slightly modified what the official definition is. We are going to say that there has to be a minimum number of 3 songs or musical numbers or musical productions in the film itself in order to qualify for this kind of draft. So that's where we all landed, and we're all pretty relatively happy about it, I think. I guess we'll see how Ben acts up during the draft. So strategy is going to be a big part of this podcast. Like I said, it was just Ben and I last time. So we were kind of just getting the feel. Ben, I'm still pretty hurt. You put Tenet last. You were like, trust me, I won't do anything unhinged in this Nolan draft. And fucking number 13, you're like, Tenet. And I was just like, what are we doing? So anyway.
I'm just being honest. That's all. That's
I'm still mad. And of course, Sophie would love to hear this as well. You fucking dunked on Oppenheimer and you didn't like Oppie. And I fought so hard to get it number 1.
I let you get that to number 4.
I fought so hard. So, of course, strategy is a little bit bigger in this one. We're going to go over the rules in just a second and kind of reveal the abilities, the superpowers that maybe each one of us have. We have these, little abilities throughout the draft. But I am curious, Sophie, I'll start with you. You've never podcasted, you've never done a collaborative draft, and you are a big musical head. So what's your strategy going into this? I feel like I'd be a little flustered if I were you, but I don't want to put that on you,
Yeah, I'm the rookie here. I'm kind of winging it. I did try to do a little bit of digging to find and gauge y'all's taste.
Nice.
So we'll see how well I did, but
I like that.
yeah, we're kind of winging it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm pretty transparent with my taste. I think Ben is a little more hidden, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's part of my strategy.
It was the long con. Your whole letterbox privacy has been leading to this.
I
Mhm.
feel like there's a chance that like the movies I want to pick aren't even on your guys' list, and I'm really excited
Oh,
about that.
wow.
So
Wow.
I'm really looking
Okay.
forward to this. I think
Sick.
it's gonna be great.
Sick.
I mean, as far as my strategy, honestly, like I know I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying this. There's one position I do not want to have out of the three options here, and I'm
Okay.
really worried I'm going to get stuck with that. But other than that, I'm just going to try to follow my heart. That's my strategy every time.
I have been on several drafts on your podcast, Ben, and
You
I
have.
have tried my just damnedest to win every single time. And I feel like the listeners or the participants or people just like suss me out and there's like, this guy really knows how to play the game. Let's not vote for him. Let's make sure he loses in the first round.
Yeah.
So I don't know what my strategy is here. I talk a big game and I feel like I can come in pretty strong. And then the first pick is going to get taken and it's all of it's going to go out the window. I just have no idea how this is going to play. So
Yeah.
speaking of strategy, I'm going to give the down low on how we are going to be doing this. So like I said, full credit to Screen Drafts. Incredible podcast. They do some insane drafts over there that we can only hope to do one day. But, this is a little bit of a break from the A24 content that we put out, something just a little bit different in structure and something a little bit fun. So there's going to be three drafters, of course, Ben, myself, and Sophie. We're going to have drafter A, drafter B, and drafter C. We are going to randomly pick the order in which we will draft. So we're going to be collectively choosing 11 musicals. So drafter A, this is very important, and gets picks 7, 4, and 1. Now, this drafter A, is also going to get 2 vetoes. They're the only person to get 2 vetoes. If you remember our Christopher Nolan ranking, Ben and I each had 1 veto, and Ben fucked it up and didn't use it right, and then I did it very well. So that's pretty much how that went down. So these can be played at any time during the draft, but the only stipulation is that you cannot use a veto to override on your own pick. There's another person that has a veto override that cannot be used kind of in conjunction. So when we get there, we'll kind of hash it out and make sure we're all following the rules. Drafter B is going to get picks 9, 8, 5, and 2. They're going to have 1 veto. And then drafter C is going to get picks 11, 10, 6, and 3. They're going to have 1 veto. And I mentioned 1 veto override. So you can't use that override on your own pick. You can only do it if someone else vetoes a movie. So things are going to get complicated and it's going to be really fun. Ben, you mentioned you don't want to get a position. Do you want to reveal what that position is?
I do not. No.
Okay.
I mean, we don't even know what positions we're getting yet. I'm not playing my hand at all with you guys.
Sophie, is there a drafting spot that you're hoping to get that you're willing to reveal, or do you think you're going to give up too much?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay quiet.
Okay,
I will
fair.
say too, just for people listening, if something gets vetoed, it doesn't mean it can't get played later. It just means it's out for that turn. So it can come back later on. So some people might veto something if they want it to come up higher. But some people might just veto it because they don't think it belongs on the list.
I also just want to point out for the listeners who are not privy to the private text messages between Ben and I, he took advantage of my fragile mental state and texted me and asked if there was a position in the draft which I was hoping to get or not get. And I completely revealed that information without even thinking that he was up to any nefarious conduct. So
Hey.
Strategy,
what the hell,
dude.
Ben?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Wow. Okay, here we go. Okay, Ben, if you want to bust out the randomizer, we're going to figure out the draft order, and we're going to kick this thing off.
Wheel going here.
I'm so nervous.
Me too. I'm excited. Okay, here we go. With the first selection, gets to choose which drafter they want to be. Not looking good for me.
Oof. Oh,
All right.
wow. Okay, congratulations,
What
Sophie.
I guess choose, yeah.
Okay, so I get to choose.
You get to choose if you want to be drafter A, B, or C. And then whoever wins this spin gets to pick the other one. The last person is just stuck with what they're stuck with.
Oh, let's
like
go, baby. Sophie, we can play this. We can play this well. If we can guess correctly, we can really screw Ben over.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay. I'm gonna go with drafter A.
Okay, cool. I love that. Okay, Sophie is going to be drafter A. Excellent. I feel good about that. I'm going to pick, let's see. I am going to pick drafter B, actually. And then, Ben, that would put you a drafter C.
It would indeed.
And is that okay with you? How do you feel?
That was my number one choice. I did not want to be drafter A, so
Wow.
I was very
Oh,
excited.
man.
I
Well,
wanted that
Sophie, we're not off
override.
to
I
a
wanted
great
4
start.
picks. I'm excited.
Oh, no.
All right.
But, well, it's okay. Here's the thing. This is ridiculous because Ben played me. I said I didn't want to be C because, like, picking the first 2 movies, that's like a big tone setter, right? And that's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure. And you
Mhm.
could really dictate the direction of this collaborative ranking.
Yep.
And Ben was like, totally. Like, that's pretty scary, isn't it?
It'll be
So
rough. Yeah.
sick, bro. You caught me watching La La
Yep.
Land. Cool. Good for
Oh my
you.
God.
Okay, sick. Ben, you get to start this off with draft pick number 11.
Okay. Number 11 here.
I
is
am
a
so
pick.
petrified. I have no clue what's going to happen.
It's the movie I was most excited to revisit because it had been forever since I'd seen it. And I was like, I
Okay.
think this is worthy of being on the list. It's honestly like the first thing that came to mind. Like, I need to rewatch this because this would be a great 11 spot in my mind. Like, it's really well done. It's got wonderful songs. It's hilarious. It's a tight 81 minutes. Like,
Oh.
I mean, talk about a solid runtime here. And we are going to kick off the best musicals list with Trey Parker and Matt Stone's South Park, Bigger, Longer, and
Wow.
Uncut. That is what we're kicking
That
off
is
with
so
here.
unhinged. Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
It is so
Oh,
good.
wow.
They do, I mean, some of the best like musical production on here. We have stuff that like is reminiscent of South Pacific, of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, of Oklahoma. I mean, we have a song called Uncle Fucker in here. Like, how could you start off any better than something like that? Kyle's Mom's a Big Fat Bitch. I mean, these are just American classics that we have to have on this list here.
Sure.
We get the lead singer Metallica, James Hetfield, making an uncredited cameo here on a song called Hell Isn't Good. I mean, there's so much stuff here. We even have like kind of this song called Les Resistance, which is like kind of making fun of Les Mis. But the thing is, these guys know what they're doing. These are the same guys that made the Book of Mormon musical. Like,
Okay.
and one of like Trey Parker, I think it was his first movie, was it was a musical. I think it's called The Cannibal Holocaust, something like that. I forget exactly what it's called, but it was a musical that he did. So these guys actually love musicals. This isn't necessarily like making fun of everything. And I just think they do a wonderful job. The movie itself is a commentary kind of on the MPAA and the fact that like you could see all this blood and all this kind of stuff. But if there was like any sexuality or nudity, it's like, it's a bad movie. And that's kind of what the premise of the whole movie is. These guys got an NC-17 rating when they turned it in. And on all the revisions, they kept sending in worse versions, like just gnarlier, nastier versions until the MPA finally approved the first one they sent in for an R. But it was just to kind of prove their
Smart.
point that like these people are just like, it's all kind of arbitrary and these, whatever, like we could watch all these people get murdered, but you see one pair of boobs and all of a sudden it's an R. So I think it's a great movie. I was so happy to revisit it. It's super funny. And I don't know that it belongs like super high on the list, but I'd be stoked if it stays here at number 11. Have either of you guys seen this?
Absolutely not.
No?
Nope.
Oh my God. All right. That's totally fine. I mean, you get George Clooney in here. I mean, come on, you get Cloon Dog
okay.
in this, but
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've literally never watched South Park in my life.
either.
Okay. 2 non-South Parkers. So Ben,
Mhm.
looks like you took advantage. Good job. A question mark? I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking to the end here when I'm going to have to go back and read this list and I'm going to have to be like,
Yeah.
okay, let's go back and read our draft order. Number 11, South Park. That feels wrong coming out of my mouth. Especially like for a
Totally
musicals
fair.
list. Sophie, you've got 2 vetoes. I've got a veto. All right, any inkling here? You got a big grin on your face, so I don't know what's going on.
I kind of respect the taste.
Okay,
I
I
think,
like
I
it.
think an 81-minute movie. I mean, your description sounds great. I mean,
it's
I'd
true.
love to watch it.
I appreciate it.
I'm hesitant to use my veto just because Ben seems passionate, so it might creep up again later. Who knows? So
Don't
I don't know.
let that perception overrule you. He's a deep dark monster inside.
I mean, yeah, follow your heart. I mean, I might be passionate about it, but I will say I don't know that it belongs too much higher. I just I wanted to get it in here while I could, but if you want
Yeah.
to veto it, you can veto it. I got plenty of other number 11s that are ready to go. So,
Oh man.
You know,
I don't
I'm
know
gonna
if that I don't know if that was like your least unhinged pick or not by you saying that.
Yeah.
Like you're fired up. You got a bunch ready in the
I'm
can in there.
ready. I'm ready.
I only have one veto. I'm not going to use my veto. I'm gonna stamp this approved and say I guess it's okay on my end.
All right.
Okay, Ben, we're back to you. You get the double pick,
Ooh.
11 and 10, and I thought I was nervous before we started. I am just
Yeah.
exceptionally off the tracks right now. I didn't know what to expect. I had an idea. I still have an idea of a few that you might pick. Of course, I would prefer to use my veto pretty strategically because I can almost guarantee you're going to come into that 3 spot and drop something that I vehemently disagree with. So
Rock-a-doodle-doo.
we'll see what happens. But you're at the 10 pick, Ben. Go ahead again.
Okay. What we're going to do here is we're going to go away from animation, but we're going to delve into a little bit of puppetry here. This is a musical I love a lot. I could rewatch it every day. It's super fun. Has one of my favorite actors that we just don't see enough anymore. I think it's got some great set pieces. The fun fact I learned while doing this is that this movie at the time it came out was the most expensive movie Warner Brothers had ever made. And they had made Alien at that point, which cost $18 million. This one cost $25 million somehow.
I have no clue where we're going.
But we are going with the Frank Oz directed Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I like
That's
that.
gonna be my number 10 pick.
I was this close to watching it last night. This close. And then I was like, you know what? I need a good night of rest before the unhinged pod. So
that's totally fair. It's understandable. Yeah, I mean, honestly, this 10 spot was kind of leaning Frank Oz for me either way. There's a couple other ones that he's involved with, but I love Little Shop of Horrors. Some great songs. Rick Moranis just gives a wonderful performance. We also get some great cameos from Steve Martin. We get Bill Murray in here in just one of the most unhinged roles as a person who loves to go to the dentist, which is just like, it's super crazy. So he and Steve Martin get to share a few scenes together. But super funny. One of the singers of the Four Tops is playing Audrey too. And we get some beautiful musical numbers here. And yeah, I don't know. I love this movie and I think everyone should see it if they haven't. I think it's really good. So that's what I'm going to submit for number 10 is Little Shop of Horrors.
Great pick. I love it. I Suddenly Seymour is like one of my favorite songs of all time. I think it's on my Spotify Wrapped like pretty much
Yes.
every year.
Yes.
Wow.
So I love this pick. It's great.
Awesome.
Great movie.
I'm happy to hear that. I have like a Broadway, I think it's called Broadway Bangers or something like that, some Spotify list, and Suddenly Seymour is definitely on there. I love that song. It's so good.
You've got to share that list. Is that hand curated by you?
It is indeed. It's a part of the Patreon. I'm not handing that out for free, but if you're on the Patreon, you want the link, let me know.
Drop the link for sure. Okay, so I haven't seen Little Shop of Horrors. It was definitely on my short list of movies to try to see before this.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I just ran out of time. So now that it's on our personal list, I guess, here's 2 movies I have to see before we record next, or people are going to attack me.
I can't wait to hear South Park review. I cannot wait. I can't wait.
I am scared. I don't know what I will think. Okay, so I won't veto it either. I feel good. That's pretty good. All that I know about Little Shop of Horrors is like the background picture that comes up when I click on it on Vudu, and it looks pretty good. So based on that picture alone, and Rick Moranis is great. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I grew up on that just all the time. And so, and Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves with the bubbles. That's elite cinema in my eyes. That's really, really good. And the bananas have potassium. That's how I learned that. So, excellent film. Not Little Shop of Horrors, but still pretty good.
It was still a good movie.
Okay. I've got 2 picks here. And then Sophie will jump in at number 7. So this is tough. Ben, I don't envy you for having to pick the first 2. It's really hard to figure out a strategy of what you want to do, where you want to place it.
Yeah.
I feel like right now in the 9 spot, I kind of do have to take a page out of your book, and I have to ensure that something that I have a personal connection to ends up on the list before we get too high up there.
Oh boy.
So this I'm caught between 2 that I could probably interchange for 8 or 9. But let's test the waters a little bit. Let's see how we land here. So this is one of my favorites. This is actually the first movie that I rewatched when I knew we were going to do this. I was like, this is the movie that's going to kick off this whole musical rewatch. My wife actually really likes it. We saw it when Broadway came to Portland. We saw it as a play. It is gory and unhinged and a little demonic, you could even say.
Okay.
I am going to be picking Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, with Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, I think, and Alan Rickman, of course. Sacha Baron Cohen is just an absolutely unreal role the year after Borat, which still blows my mind. I love this movie. I love the songs. I think it's hilarious and dark and demented, and really, really key Tim Burton, like live action stuff. Like this is just Tim Burton's version of London that he totally owns and has control over. And I think Johnny Depp won an Oscar for this role, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was at least nominated. So that's kind of crazy. But I love this musical, and I am so happy to put it on the board. And if someone vetoes it, I'm going to fucking freak out.
Well, I'm not going to veto it because I know you have the next pick, so it feels like a waste of a veto.
Fair.
I like this movie. I've only seen it once. I remember enjoying it. Sacha Baron Cohen's good. He's really good in it. I don't have enough of a memory of it to really be passionate either way, other than just like it was better than I anticipated it being. So I'm cool with it being on here. I think these kind of movies that are like personal to us, that maybe not everybody loves, this is the spot for them to go for sure.
How do you know not everybody loves this? Why are you deeming this like, Ethan's the only person that likes this movie?
I was trying to be nice and refer to South Park and stuff, but yeah, if you want to take it on yourself, like, yeah. But no, I think this is a solid spot for it for sure.
Yeah, I had a feeling that this would be on the list somewhere. I actually have not seen it.
Okay.
It's Sweeney Todd is on Broadway right now as well, so I've meant
with
to go
Josh Groban,
that.
right? You should
Yes.
definitely go.
I know, I have to go. But yeah, it's a blind spot of mine. I have been meaning to watch it for so long, but I'm not going to veto. I support you.
Okay, we're all playing kind. We're all playing easy here
For now.
So it
For
was
now.
yeah. For now, with the next pick, we'll see how out of hand things get probably real fast. It was nominated for 3 Oscars. Johnny Depp was nominated for lead actor. It won Best Achievement in Art Direction. So pretty cool. Nominated for costume design as well. Yeah, I love this movie. I'm super stoked that it's making it on the list. Okay, number 8. I am really hoping to put Ben in a bind with this one because I feel like it's near and dear to your heart. This is a new one for me and one that I immediately enjoyed. And the next day at work, talked with a coworker who lives nearby and said that his city plays this movie once a month at like a night showing, and people dress up, and it's a whole big production. And I was like, let's go. Let's get a ticket. That sounds so good. I love this movie. I'm nominating the Rocky Horror Picture Show at number 8. This movie is so camp and so ridiculous and probably one of the funniest musicals I've ever seen, and instantly was like, cool, if I ever just want to like have something fun to listen to and to put on in the background, this is going to be that. The costumes are unreal. Meatloaf making like a rock ballad performance in the middle of this movie is so hilarious to me.
Hoppertootie.
How is Susan Sarandon so fucking hot? I don't get it. She's so gorgeous. This movie is wonderful, and I love this film.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen like a shadow cast performance of Rocky Horror, Ethan?
No. Just the movie.
My gosh. Put it on the top of your to-do list. It is, so they do, so I actually embarrassingly was introduced to Rocky Horror Picture Show through the movie Perks of Being a Wallflower, because they perform Rocky Horror in that movie. And it's basically like an audience participation thing. Like you go see Rocky Horror and they give you like a prop bag and you shout callbacks at the screen. It is such a fun experience.
That's what my friend said he has been to in the past. And I was like, that sounds incredible.
It is so fun. It's amazing. But yeah, I love this movie so much. I think it's such a celebration of like difference, and it has LGBTQ representation.
Yeah.
It has such an impact on like popular culture. Like I said, I literally learned about it from a random movie.
Mhm.
Um, Tim Curry's performance is just everything to me. Sweet Transvestite is also probably on my
So good.
Spotify Wrapped every year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a cult. What can you say?
Yeah. I went into this movie completely blind, by the way. Like I had never seen a trailer. I had only seen like a still of like the characters. And I was like, that movie seems like pretty unhinged. Maybe I won't like it. And I was like
Mhm.
6 minutes in and I was like, this is wonderful.
It's a
And
solid movie, man. Like, oh, sorry. Go ahead,
there's
Sophie.
also there's I think a lot of people learned about it from Glee, which I was gonna try
Oh,
not to say talk about Glee on this podcast tonight, but here we are. Um, they do a whole episode dedicated to Rocky Horror, and it's perfect.
nice.
After watching this, the most recent time, I made a purchase online of
Oh, I love
this
it.
because like this movie is so awesome. I don't know what bind you thought you're putting me in other than just like
Okay.
giving me an extra pick because I love this. Like it might be higher in my personal list. I'm just happy to see it on here. But yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I was trying to suss you out and see if this would like tickle your fancy to throw a veto down because it is pretty low on the list. I know for your personal picks.
honestly, like it was this and Little Shop that I was going back and forth between. I was like,
Oh,
so
okay.
I have a few movies here that feel similar somehow. And I was like, I don't want to do both, you know, so I went with Little Shop. So I was really happy that you picked this. But yeah, Time Warp. I mean, I don't know. This whole movie is so good. Like you said, like Susan Sarandon is just like, she's so beautiful. It's ridiculous. But honestly, Tim Curry looks just as good. Like
Yeah.
he's like, he pulls off that outfit the whole time. It blows my mind. I love it. My exposure before I had seen this movie, that opening song, science fiction double feature. There's a band called Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, and they do a cover of it. And I listened to that song for years. And I put this movie on for the first time. I was like, oh shit, that's what this is from. Okay. Now I know, yeah, who Janet is. All right, cool. Got it. But yeah,
Sick.
Damn It Janet, all these songs are classics. I'm so happy this is on here. This is a great pick.
Nice. Cool. We did it. That's wonderful. What a great movie. Okay, Sophie, you're at number 7. This is your first nomination, first pick here.
Mhm. Okay. We recently had a pretty good musical year in 21.
Mhm.
And some personal favorites came out of that year. I want to put this at the number 7 slot because I don't know if this movie's for everyone or if I'm picking the right version of this movie, but I'm going to go with West Side Story, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Mm.
I think I could go with either version here. I think the quality of the two is very similar in my eyes. But obviously, I think Spielberg's rendition is more culturally appropriate, and obviously, I think
Wallace
musicals,
Brown
the
face.
yeah, the genre of musicals they're just generally very white, and I think
Mhm.
Spielberg's West Side Story brings a diversity to the musical world and to this list. But it's just a timeless classic love story. I love the New York setting. The ballet choreography is what sticks with me the most. I think this movie is a little bit stained by Ansel Elgort. I wish
Yeah.
that they
Mm.
cast someone else. But to me, it's a perfect movie. Yeah.
I should have
Yeah.
seen that coming. 5 stars on your letterbox.
Yep.
Shoot.
I love it. That's such a solid pick. We recently on my other pod we did a series of remakes, and I actually picked both West Side Stories because I had never seen either of them before,
Mm.
and I love them both so much. Like you're totally right. Like this Spielberg one is definitely much more appropriate on a lot of levels. But Rita Moreno just kills it in that first movie. But I do think this was also on my long list. I was like, this Spielberg West Side Story should be on here. I hope it makes it. So I'm happy that you picked it. Mike Feist gives like a great performance in this movie. I think he
Mhm.
does a wonderful job. Great cinematography from Spielberg. It's like kind of insane to think like, hey, I'm going to take one of the most revered movies of all time and just remake it. It's like, why are you doing this, man? Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
but that's why I wanted to watch him. And then after I did, I got it. I was like, oh yeah, he brought something more to this than the original had. So the first one definitely has its charms. I love that high school dance scene in the first one so much. It's gonna be one of my favorite scenes ever. But this one's great. I agree with you though. I think they agree with you too because they really did all the trailers around Ansel as much as they could. It's
Yeah.
like let's not talk about Ansel so much. But yeah, this movie's great.
Hot take, I think this movie's okay. I and people are gonna come at me because I've never seen the original one, so I am just like not cultured when it comes to like West Side Story. I will say shout out Brian Darcy James of Spotlight for being a police officer in this movie. That's pretty great to see him back on the big screen.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think this movie's fine. Sophie, you're very impassioned, and I just can't use a veto on a first pick of a first time Potter on my show. It's just not gonna happen. But I
That's
will
put it here.
yeah,
Put it low.
that was a good strategy play. That's for sure. I guess I got put in a bind of my own that I was hoping
Yeah.
no one would throw to Ben. I am getting nervous because there's 6 movies I have to have on this list. And I'm really dependent on Sophie picking some of them because Ben, I know you're not going to pick some.
Not at
So
all.
I'm starting to get worried. I'm starting to get a little nervous. But that brings us to pick number 6, and this is where the tires meet the road here because picks are a little bit more important. We're getting up higher. We have less to go for on the entire list, and the personal preferences might either really come out or might shadow away. I guess we're
Yeah.
gonna find out. Ben, you have the 6th pick.
I do. And I'm only going to say this because we're moving on here, but I definitely would have overridden your veto if you had vetoed West Side Story. Sure.
Oh, okay,
So-
fascinating. Well, that would have left you with a veto still, and then I would have been
just lost your veto.
powerless. Yeah, I would have
Yeah.
just lost my. Okay,
Yeah,
all
so
right.
It's probably a
Well,
good call that you didn't do that.
I appreciate the transparency. That's good.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay,
An
so
olive
this
branch,
one-
if you will.
Yeah, a little bit. This one here is honestly, it's probably my number 2, like on my personal
Oh.
list. But I have a feeling that this may not have been on either of your guys' lists at
Oh, no.
all. So I feel like I need to play it here at 6 and hope it lives. This is something that was new to me, probably like in the last few years. And I watched it and I was like, oh, this is amazing. It's a very 80s movie. It's not perfect. It has plenty of problems. But it's a perfect movie to me. And I would say arguably it's the best soundtrack of all time, which is why I feel like it needs
Whoa.
to be here. So I'm going to say, let's go crazy and let's put Purple Rain on here at number 6.
Oh, no.
I think this belongs here.
I have never seen Purple Rain. I know, Ben, you have just a fantastic affinity for Purple Rain.
Love it.
Sophie, where are you at on Purple Rain?
I've never seen Purple Rain.
Okay, this is
Okay.
fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a veto. Sophie has 2 vetoes. How do you feel, Sophie? What are you thinking here?
I
Follow your heart. Nothing will be
I
taken
hate,
personal.
I hate to do it to Prince, because I do love him,
Me
but I
too.
just haven't seen the movie, and I also have a long list of these that I think I'd prefer to be up here, so I'm gonna veto it.
Okay. All right.
Well done, Sophie. I'm so
first
glad I
veto.
could draw that out of you and
Our
not blow
first
my veto
veto.
on this one.
Thank you.
I feel so good. That's
Okay.
our first veto.
Yeah.
Ben,
Mhm.
how do you feel? You had to know that a veto was coming sooner or later, and it would obviously be your darling that would go.
I mean, I assumed if anything was going to get vetoed, it was that. So I knew it was going to happen. I didn't want to play it down at like 10 or anything like that. I do still have another pick after this. So we'll see if it comes back at 3. Who knows? I'm still facing down the barrel of 2 vetoes here from you guys. So who knows? I really wish I had thought more about what I was going to follow up with though. I
See,
probably
you
should
thought
have
it was a
done that.
lock. You moved on.
In my mind, in my heart, I moved on. I was like, yeah, this is fine. This will last. This will be here.
I'll probably never watch Purple Rain because of this instance. Or just like, what? Didn't make the list. Guess I'm never
Didn't
gonna watch it.
Would you do a Grease for Purple Rain trade?
That sounds very enticing, and that is something I would be very happy to do under the table. And maybe we can make that happen. Apparently, my child sending you a voice message saying, Ben, you should watch Grease is not enough to sway you to watch Grease.
Yeah.
So I don't know about
you
that.
You omitted that when you told me, the listeners, about me texting you to find out what draft position you wanted. You neglected to mention the emotional manipulation you did with your own children here.
Here's the thing. I'll fill the listeners in, Sophie, in just a little bit. We were having a back and forth about Grease, of course, and I got my daughter to send a voice message to you, Ben. And you texted me back something along the lines of like, I can't watch it because Taco, your dog, is around or too loud or whatever. However, my daughter understood that was that your dog would bark the whole time. And so thus you could not watch the movie. And her first response was, tell Ben it's okay. I can talk to animals and I can make her not bark.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. I guess it's not good enough. I don't know how I'm ever going to top that. Maybe it's the Purple Rain for Grease trade. It's just 1 for 1.
We'll see. We will definitely see. Okay. All right. God damn it. I just wish I had thought about what to do.
I love this.
Okay. I think I need to go with, yeah. All right. I'm going to go with kind of a newer movie, 2016. And I love this movie. It's a period piece kind of set in the 80s about kids starting their own band. And I think the original songs in it are really, really good. We also get some great hits from the 80s. Like, we get Motorhead, Duran Duran, The Cure, Hall & Oates is one of my favorite bands of all time. So I am going to nominate Sing Street here at number 6. Have either of you seen Sing Street?
No.
I have.
Okay. All right, good. Something Ethan's seen finally.
Yes, finally something I've seen.
I don't know. I think this movie's great. It's a classic, like, boy wants to impress the girl, so he like starts a band. Like that's all the premise of it is.
Pretty good.
But he has like a cool older brother who like really puts him on to like what the cool music is of the 80s, what he should be doing. And so you watch these kids kind of like discover who they are, learn how to be punk, go through all the different phases kind of like, dressing like Duran Duran, but then dressing up, kind of like Motorhead or The Cure, just like all these different classic 80s styles just to find who they are. It's a really fun movie. The original music is great. It's by John Carney, the guy who did Once and Begin Again. So, a great writer, great director. So yeah, I don't know. Sing Street is what I'm going to nominate here.
I like the pick.
Okay. I have no thoughts. I'm left out of this one.
I watched Sing Street a couple of years ago after it was recommended to me so much. I think I didn't connect with it totally, and it's not my perfect musical in my head, although it follows the rules that we set. Yeah, I loved the scenes that stick out to me are when they're like making their music videos against like the rock wall, and there's definitely moments that have really stuck with me. So maybe that's saying something. I don't have a personal emotional connection to it, but I think I'm in the minority in that. So I respect the pick.
Totally fair. At least you've seen it, Ethan.
Look, I only had so much time. Okay, I tried to watch as many musicals as I could.
How many times you've seen Babylon?
Look, that's neither here nor there. It doesn't apply. It's totally a different topic. It's a different subject.
Here and there, yeah.
Sophie, how many times have you seen Babylon? That's the real question.
I think 4, 5.
Okay, see, I haven't seen it 5 times. I've seen it 3 times. That's a fine. It's
you
under
watched
double-digit
Street
hours.
Like 7 times at a time.
God. Okay, that means I'm at the 5th pick. So there are a few movies that I watched recently that I really want to make the list. Sophie, you gave me a little bit of a hint by commenting on one of my Letterboxd reviews. So I'm not saying that we have an alliance, but I feel pretty good about potentially something you might pick later on that I would also like to nominate. So I'm going to skip that for now. Here is where this gets interesting. Okay. I'm just going to send it and we're going to see what happens. I'm going to nominate one of my favorite musicals of all time. I think it's like number 4 or number 3 for me. A musical that I have a great affinity for, a wonderful history and a wonderful past. A musical that I have passed down to my children, that they know the songs, they watch the movie, they ask when it's their wind down time in the middle of the day, hey, can I watch this movie? Which I think is phenomenal. I feel like I've successfully done it as a parent for cinema and for the history of cinema. I'm going to nominate a movie that Ben's never seen in Grease. I fucking love Grease, and I think it's filled with so many problems, and I think it's so wonderful. And John Travolta is incredibly gorgeous, as is Olivia Newton-John as Sandy. I will just say two very prominent sexual awakenings when I was a child was Rachel Weisz in The Mummy, of course, and then in Grease, when Sandy is in her leather getup at the very end of the movie, incredible. It just makes my hair stand on my skin. Still incredible movie, wonderful scenes, excellent songs that are just repeatable for life. So I'm gonna nominate Grease in the 5 spot.
All right. I grew up with Grease. It was my dad's favorite movie, so I've seen it many a times. I did revisit it in my adulthood and was like, damn, Danny Zuko is a shithead. Like he sucks.
is a douche. He's
Yeah.
terrible.
So that did kind of affect my viewing experience, but I think the music is incredible. Like some of the greatest songs ever that I still listen to all the time. So I feel like I'm kind of in the middle on Grease. Like
Okay.
I don't know if it's aged the best, but I like the music, so I don't know. I don't know how to feel.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Ben, how are you feeling? Because of course, you have never seen Grease. You love Grease 2.
I do.
So I'm curious where are you at right now? What's going through your head?
You know, I'm anti-Grease. I think it's smart that you played it here strategically, because I'm sure you wouldn't be bummed to play this at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to veto. The last time we went through this, I didn't veto, and I wish I had.
Big regret. Yeah.
Big regret here. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. From what I understand of the movie, it is essentially about a girl who stops being true to herself just to be accepted by a boy, which is just a great message you want to give everybody. Don't be who you are. Just change and become somebody else.
Don't chop
right?
my movie down like this. Okay,
Is
we
that
don't need to
not like the-
rehash everything about the film. Just
Like
say
she
it's a-
looks great
say
at
it's a
the
fun
end when she
movie.
stopped being who she wanted and just like gave into peer pressure. It's a great message for your kids.
You're
know?
ruining
Come
this
on.
film for me. You are ruining this movie.
I'm gonna see if you'll self veto.
Recant.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's gonna come back later at number 2 if I veto it here.
There's only one way to know. I mean, you'll never
There's
know,
only
Ben.
one way to know. Yeah, it's very true.
You do have a veto and a veto override.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you got options.
Yeah,
Just
you know
know
what?
I
Let's get
also
crazy.
still have a veto. Just to let you know.
I veto Grease.
You're a shithead, Ben. Danny Zuko's a great guy. Come on. Damn it. Okay. I really should have put a timer on this. You were really vamping for quite a
Hey.
while there. That was a little sus, to be honest with you.
What are you gonna do?
Okay. Well, I had already colored it green on my spreadsheet, so I guess I have to uncolor that, and we have to go back and figure out what we're gonna
Indeed.
do here. Okay. So Grease. Ben, you have a pick. See, I don't really know where you stand on a lot of musicals, Ben. It's just something we've never covered on the pod. And like
Yeah.
we do talk outside of the pod, but like we don't go to work together, we don't live in the same city. So, whatever we get is generally about the pod. I am going to nominate I would just really kick myself if this wasn't on the list. I'm going to nominate another movie that is pretty near and dear to my heart. I think an essential, like, growing up with a musical type film about wonderment and excitement and the potential of owning your own chocolate factory. I'm gonna go with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory at number 5. That I feel like that movie. I honestly don't think I've seen Gene Wilder in anything else, and it's probably because I've only ever seen him as Willy Wonka, where I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's good for me. You're just Willy Wonka forever. I know you're in some like Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein. I know you're in some really iconic movies, but I'm going to stop at Willy Wonka and choose to believe that's literally who you were. I think the message is far superior than that of Grease. Be honest and you'll get rewarded. Slugworth scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Oh,
Still
for sure.
pretty scary as an adult, but I'm going with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I think that's a excellent choice. This was also on my long list. Same Gene Wilder. Like I saw him, he was Willy Wonka forever. And then I think I finally saw Young Frankenstein because that's my dad's favorite movie. I was like, oh, this guy has done other stuff. That's crazy. I didn't realize this.
Mhm.
And then my favorite movie of his is called See No Evil, Hear No Evil. It's him and Richard Pryor. He plays a deaf guy. Richard Pryor is blind. It's really funny. They happen to witness a murder between the two of them, but it's super funny. Uh, Gene Wilder's so great. Like Pure Imagination is just like one of the most beautiful songs of all time.
Mhm.
And his performance of it is amazing. I just like picture him eating that little like yellow teacup, as he's
Every
singing
time.
and stuff like that. Like it's so good. So yeah, obviously I can't veto it, but I wouldn't even if I could. I love this. I love this pick.
Are you guys excited for the film Wonka?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Me
I'm
neither.
a hard pass on that one. Look, I love Timmy Boy, but come on, let's get real here. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. When people were having positive reactions to that trailer, I was like,
Oh.
"Oh, interesting."
I was like, I gotta
watching the same thing?
reevaluate the people I follow on Twitter because that's
Yeah.
that's some bad taste.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, I like this pick too. It's another movie that I grew up watching. It definitely scarred me as a kid. I think when I think of movies that traumatized me, especially musicals, it's this and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, obviously.
Hmm.
But yeah, Pure Imagination is incredible. This is also the only film I've seen Gene Wilder in.
Okay.
I've been meaning to watch Young Frankenstein, but
Respect.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
not going to veto this. I like this pick.
Love it.
Nice. Okay, great. I feel really good. There is one part of this movie that whenever my kids watch it, like they'll usually watch it if I'm at work or whatever, or on the weekends. If I'm not in the room, they will literally sprint to me and say, Dad, like your favorite part is coming on. And it's when they're in the room of the chewing gum, and Violet is about to have the chewing gum, and Wonka is mixing coats in with things and shoes in with things, and the dad says something along the lines of like, he doesn't agree with what's in there, and he says bowl, and Wonka says no, roast beef. And I fucking die every single time. I think that's like one of the greatest on-screen jokes ever. And I love that movie. Okay, great. I feel really good. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, number 5. Sophie, you're back around. You've got another pick.
All right, let's do it. Okay. I don't think I can leave this podcast with South Park being the only animated musical on this list.
Oh, God.
So I am going to go with The Lion King. It's a
Yeah.
movie
Oh, no.
that my parents saw on their first date. I rewatched it this year while I was in Africa, and it is just so fun to sing along to, even as an adult. The animation holds up. There's just so many like universally loved songs that everyone on this planet knows. And I never saw the live action because it was a crime. But I love The Lion King, and I will be really sad if it's vetoed.
You can't end your statement with "I'll be really sad if it's vetoed," because then the person that's going to veto it feels terrible. Even though, Ben, I know you have a great connection to The Lion King, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I didn't go on a date to see this, but I did see this in the theater. And yeah, I mean, it's just arguably the best Disney movie of all time. So yeah. What are your feelings on The Lion King?
I don't think I've seen The Lion King as an adult. I don't think I've seen most 90s Disney animated movies as an adult. Like I just haven't sought the time to go back and seek them out. I think The Lion King is probably fine. I don't know. I'm definitely using my veto here because it wasn't even on my long list. So let's see what happens. Fuck it and use the veto on your pick here, Sophie. Ben, you do have a veto override, but you definitely don't have to use it, and you should probably save it for when Sophie vetoes something later. That's what I'm thinking.
Is that how you feel about it?
Just do my best to scrape the bottom of the barrel so I can get out alive here.
What spot are we at here? Are we at spot number 4?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The 4th best musical of all fucking time is The Lion King?
Yeah,
Are you crazy?
I'm going to override it. Yeah. I'm overriding your veto.
Oh my God, my espresso is coursing through my veins. I'm going to blow.
I mean, it's like one of the best movies of all time. And yeah, come on, man. This is like, I think you need to revisit it. I think you're just trying to get me to use my override, but honestly, I would use it anyway because like it's such a good movie, and the music is kind of perfect to be honest. Plus, well, I can't get Ferris Bueller on here. I can't get Matthew Broderick, so I'm gonna make it happen. You know,
Yeah.
got to
Okay.
do it.
Thanks, Ben.
That's
See,
really unfortunate, Sophie, because I thought we were a lot closer in our picks, and Ben also thought that way, and that was part of my plan all along. Was like, let's get someone that thinks like me on the pod, so I can ultimately win most of the draft, and that's not panning out. So,
it's also
cue-
just one less spot for Grease or La La Land if I lock this one in there. So you know,
exactly. Cue the human Chernobyl, the Kendall Roy of all moments here. Ugh. Okay. I guess The Lion King is staying on the board. It is the 4th best musical in the history of the world. Number 3, Ben, is for you. Sophie, you're fantastic. Thank you for being on the pod. I think that's a bad pick. So number 3, Ben, you're up. We all have one pick left. So Ben, you have the 3. I've got the 2. Sophie's got the 1.
she does.
Which really is a lot of power, and making me really nervous based on her most recent pick. I think we could just go off the rails. But Ben, what are you going to pick for number 3?
I'm all out of stuff. You each have 1 veto left. Is that correct? I believe.
No, I have used my veto.
You used your veto. So Sophie's the only one that has a veto left.
Yeah. So Sophie, in theory, for a majority, controls the top 3 of this draft.
So now I have to wonder if she would use both vetoes on the same movie. Is that a thing that
she's used one veto. Sophie used a veto, I believe.
Yes, but if I renominate that movie and she wants to veto it again,
that's
would
a
she
bad
be using
decision,
both
but
vetoes
fascinating.
On the same? It'd be kind of interesting. Yeah, you know what? This isn't an objective list. This is a subjective list, and it's one of my favorite musicals of all time. I think I feel okay about this. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a really good way to lock in a nomination.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go nuts here. Purple Rain at number 3. I'm throwing it back out there. We'll see if it lives.
Wow.
I don't know.
Sophie, you have one responsibility here. That's it. I can tell you in confidence, we have the same top 2. So if you're worried, just rest those worries a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you guys have the same top 2?
In faith,
I
feel like we have a connection right now. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah,
good, yeah.
we do.
All right,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Until I fucking bust out Grease again, then we'll see what happens. I would never though. Trust me.
I don't know if you're lying.
I would never. I promise. I swear.
All right.
Come on.
Just because I think I'm the queen of musicals, and if I haven't seen it, maybe it doesn't belong on here. I don't know. I'm gonna veto Purple Rain once again.
Damn.
Wow.
All right.
2 shots,
should've thrown
nothing
this
but
out
net
there
on
earlier.
both. Heavy blocks.
Okay.
Wow. Nice job, Sophie. We did it. We shot him
Alright.
down.
Oh, that hurts my heart. I mean, it's totally fine. Do whatever you want, but that hurts my heart. Okay. Let's see here. Ethan, have you and I talked about your top 2?
Like top 2 musicals of all time?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably when I was like susceptible to, having a bond and a friendship with you over text messages.
Here's
So
the
you
thing is,
probably-
I don't want to play one of them and then open up the spot for you to do Grease.
Okay, here's what we'll do. I can promise both of you, I have no intention to play Grease. I mean that from the heart. And if I do play Grease, the podcast is dissolved on the spot. I love Grease, but it's no number 2. Let me just tell you that.
How wild would it be if I played Elvis right now?
Oh
Just
my
crazy.
fucking God.
Would you want Purple Rain back if I played Elvis? I mean, I did love that movie. That was one of my favorite movies of last year.
Think about the
Lerman.
people that are listening to this show. They might be their first time listening to this pod, and they may be like, wow, Ben, completely unhinged in his movie taste.
Has Baz Luhrmann done a better musical? I say no. So maybe Elvis needs to be on here because he's never directed a better musical.
Well, Sophie, where do you fall on Moulin Rouge?
That was a movie I was scared was going to be on this list because I actively do not like Moulin Rouge.
Thank you. Yes.
And
Okay.
I'm not generally a Baz Luhrmann fan either.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all I'll say.
Moulin Rouge, not bad, to be honest.
Honestly, just trying to
Pretty
figure out
good.
if Moulin Rouge was both of yours number 1 or 2 because I knew Ethan liked it.
No.
So I was worried.
No,
It's like,
not
oh, fuck.
like that. I will be honest, Ben. I feel like I've told you this. I do have a private list on Letterboxd that only I can see of my musical rankings, and Moulin Rouge pretty low on the list, even though it's okay. It's pretty low.
God damn it, you guys!
But you don't know what number 1 and 2 are because it's private.
I think I have to play my number 1. I believe this belongs at number 1 overall. I would hope it'd be one of your guys' number 1, but knowing that we're out of vetoes and this can't get booted off, it has to be on the list. I will quit this podcast if it's not on the list. I rewatched it today for like, I don't know, the 50th time. And
I'm so nervous.
Singing in the Rain.
Huh, okay.
It's just, I think it's the greatest movie musical of all time. I imagine it's what you guys would have played, but I didn't want to risk it not being on this list. Because for me, this is what made me like love musicals. You know, Disney was great. I enjoyed all that kind of stuff, but it just felt like, oh, kids movies have songs in it. Got it. This was like probably one of the first like adult movies I saw that had musicals in it. Like, oh, like Make 'Em Laugh to me is still just ingrained in my head, and it always will be. I was blown away the first time I saw that. I was like, oh, you can do like backflips off of walls, and you can like do all this kind of stuff. Like Donald O'Connor, Debbie Reynolds, and Gene Kelly. This is just like one of the most powerful performances from a trio like I've ever seen. I rewatched it again today, and I don't know. I love it as someone who's also like whatever, went to film school, all that kind of shit. I love the behind the scenes of it for like the talkies and all that kind of stuff. Like I love the storyline. I think they make it work really well. And I also like just like sentimental attachment to it. My grandma used to sing Good Morning. Like I grew up with my grandma. She used to sing that song like on the weekends in the morning before I had even seen the movie. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, okay, this is cool. So I love this movie. I genuinely think it's a perfect film, and it just needed to be on the list. I couldn't risk it not making it. I imagine you guys might have played it, but I'm going to lock it in at number 3, even though it belongs to be number 1.
Yeah, strategy play. I respect that. Sophie, what are your feelings on Singing in the Rain?
Ben, I was really hoping you were going to do that, because Singing in the Rain, to me, Ethan will be surprised. It would have been my number 1.
Okay.
I think it's impossible to describe its impact. It's my go-to like sick day movie because it just is so joyful, so vibrant, always will put a smile on my face. I just think it's such a celebration of like cinema, like you said, Ben, and just the film industry during such a transformative in its history. It's perfect to me. I love it so much. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think it's a perfect film. I think that it is immaculate in everything that it tries to do, and it just hits it out of the park. I mean, it's revered for a very clear reason. This is the musical that my children watch at least once a week. I also wake them up with Good Morning before they go to school, and so and then usually at nighttime I'll switch the lyrics to good night, and they think it's the funniest thing ever. So that's great. Yeah, I mean, we listen to this soundtrack all the time in the car. Like, this is it. Like, when you think of musicals, this is like the very first thing that springs to mind is what is possible, and everything that a musical should represent. So, Ben, I love that pick. I'm so stoked that you did that. Singing in the Rain is excellent. Okay, that leaves me with the number 2 and Sophie with the number 1. This is fascinating because obviously I have a movie that's very near and dear to my heart. If I don't pick it, that puts a lot of weight on Sophie to pick it, and I might not. Anything's possible. We could have another South Park incident to cap us off. So I just don't know. There are a few movies that I really wished like would have made this kind of like top 6 or top 7 that are unfortunately not going to. We'll talk about them in the honorable mentions. I am, for the sake of what you said, Ben, of just like locking it up, making sure it's on the list, I would just be absolutely unbelievably frightened if it did not make the best 11, and South Park did and The Lion King did. No offense to either of you. I am picking La La Land, of course, 2016, just magnificent film. I made it most of the way through the movie, rewatching it during work today before doing this pod, and every single time I watch it, I cry like earlier in the film. I just like pick up certain things I just have never seen before. And I've seen it like so many times. Like I said, this is the movie that I saw in the theater like 3 times. That was like before I went to the movies. I didn't watch the Oscars. I didn't know like this was a big deal to have a movie like this.
Yeah.
Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, their chemistry is unfathomably real in this film. Some truly like gut punch songs and score. I have, as Ben has so graciously given to me as a gift, a poster of like Seb's diner and jazz club in my living room, and it's the coolest thing ever. And I love La La Land. Love La La Land. I own it on Blu-ray and 4K in 3 different versions. So I'm a fan, you could say. Go physical media. But yeah, La La Land's great. That's my number 2 pick. I don't know if you would veto it, Sophie, but I guess you have a veto. And I don't know why you would.
Wait, do I? No, I don't. I don't have a veto.
She burned it both.
Oh, you burned them both. Yeah, okay, good. So we're locked in. La La Land is number 2. I feel good.
She's like,
yeah,
the greatest
La La
soundtrack
Land.
of all time? No, I'm going to veto it
Wrong.
twice. Sorry, go ahead.
La La Land is like, I can't even begin to describe the relationship I have with it. First time I ever saw La La Land, I was in New York and I saw Hamilton for the first time, which was very exciting for teenage me. And then it was midnight. I didn't know what to do because I was so amped up. So I went across the street and saw a little movie called La La Land and absolutely fell in love with it. And I went to California that year and I went to the Griffith Observatory and I went to the Warner Brothers lot and went to the cafe in La La Land. Like, it is just so ingrained in me. I'm pretty sure I will be getting a La La Land tattoo very soon.
Nice.
Yeah, it's everything to me. I think it is the modern musical and was it kind of felt like a revival of the genre and demonstrated that audiences were still receptive to original musical telling. The impact on jazz, I mean, it's kind of like the signature right place, wrong time movie these days. It's perfect. I think the Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling chemistry is unmatched. It's perfect. What can I say? I could go on forever.
Never seen it.
This is unbelievable.
This is so unreal.
I'm just kidding. It's fine. Like, I don't know.
I'm
It's
just
like
kidding.
it's all right. Like I like it just fine. I just like I don't know. It's kind of weird. You know what I mean? It's just like this white dude is so obsessed with jazz, you know? It's like, all right, chill out a little bit. Like,
bro, people like people who are passionate about things. Come on.
No, I like it. I don't like the whole like John Legend storyline. Like that stuff was all just kind of weird to me. But yeah, no, I mean, this movie's, it's fine. I imagined it was going to be here. Like I feel like I've come to terms with like, I knew this was going to be whatever the top spot Ethan got, as long as no one had a veto, La La Land is going to be there. This is where we're at. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. That means so much. It's very, very exciting. Okay, Sophie, you've got the number 1 pick. This is it. Round out our collaborative musical draft here with what you're going to pick. So we have picked Singing in the Rain, arguably the best musical of all time. We've picked La La Land, the best modern day musical of all time. There's some really good older things on the board, but I'm really curious where you're going to go.
Can we do a dramatic like rundown from 11 to 2?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll leave it up to her to say what the number 1 is because we don't have a veto. It's going to get locked in whatever she picks. This
is true. Okay, let's vamp for dramatic effect here. So number 11, South Park, Bigger, Louder, and Uncut. Apparently is a real musical.
Great pick.
That's what I've been told. Number 10, Little Shop of Horrors. Number 9, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Number 8, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Number 7, West Side Story, the 2021 version from Steven Spielberg. Number 6, Sing Street. Number 5, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Number 4, The Lion King. Number 3, Singing in the Rain. Number 2, La La Land. And number 1, the greatest musical of all time, according to our list, is...
According to our list, but it's up to me.
Yep,
according to the queen of musicals herself.
Our reputations are on the line here.
They really is.
I think I'm throwing a huge curveball. I don't know if you guys
Purple
Rain.
Purple Rain.
Don't.
But the number one pick, I am going with The Sound of Music.
Okay,
Wow.
all right.
Have you all seen The Sound of Music?
I have seen The Sound of Music.
No, this is
Okay.
unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Okay, The Sound of Music, I I do have a Sound of Music tattoo. It's an Edelweiss flower.
Nice.
This is the musical of my household. It's kind of one of those movies that's like a non-Christmas movie that I still watch every Christmas because it's just a family staple.
Yeah.
I think it's an unreal Julie Andrews performance. The chemistry between her and Christopher Plummer was like just everything to me as a kid. I think the Austrian scenery is unreal. My dream is to go to Austria and do a Sound of Music tour. I rewatched it recently and it still looks perfect, even though it's from 1965. Iconic musical numbers. I just think it's perfect. It's wholesome. It's family friendly. Ethan, you need to show your daughters this movie.
You saying that I should
So
watch
yeah.
this? That's what you're telling me?
Yes, yes, I am telling you that.
Anti-Nazi, which
I
is good. That's great.
yeah.
That's
Always good.
I feel bad that I picked the number one movie and Ethan hasn't even seen it, but
You know what? It just goes to show I'm not a perfect film guy after all. I've got my gaps, even though I talk a big game. I did want to watch The Sound of Music like before this. Obviously, it was like one of the most iconic ones. I just ran out of time. I just couldn't do it. Couldn't fit it between school and family and everything else. Ben, you have seen The Sound of Music.
yeah. Yeah, I have. It wasn't on my list. I did have another Julie Andrews though with Mary Poppins, which I feel is like, in my opinion, it's like the better musical of hers, but I just don't connect with Sound of Music that much. Fun fact, I got to go be in the audience one time for Ellen's like whatever days of Christmas. And the guest that day was Julie Andrews, and we all got a free Sound of Music Blu-ray, which was like,
Whoa.
all right, cool, you know?
Sick.
Yeah, and then just got a bunch of like kitchen shit. And then they had like this 5-year-old kid who had like loved vacuums, so we all got a vacuum too. So that's my connection with Sound of Music is going on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
getting a vacuum.
Getting a vacuum from like a 5-year-old. But no, I mean, like Doe a Deer, like that song is just like, I don't know, it's a pretty banger song. Like it's really good to be honest. Like obviously Edelweiss and all that kind of stuff is great as well. But yeah, like I would have gone with a different Julie Andrews, but like you said, at this point it's also hard to like find our connections to these movies. So objectively it's hard to say Sound of Music isn't just one of the best musicals of all time. So I'm like, I can't really argue against it. It's beautiful, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's look, I've got no argument. I haven't seen it. I think it's really fascinating that like I tried my hardest to see movies that I thought would be relevant to this conversation, and I think only like 7 of them ended up making the list, and I didn't see everything else. So I think that's really fascinating. We all brought something different to the table, which is wonderful. We just went through our list. I'm not going to go through it again. Does anybody have honorable mentions? Things that, of course, Ben, you wanted Purple Rain on the list. Was there anything else that, if you really had your way, if the cards fell right, that you would want on this list?
If I hadn't like panicked, I probably would have done the Muppet movie instead of Sing Street because I really think
am I a
that's like
Muppet or am
such
I a man? That's pretty good.
Well, the original from '79,
Damn
the
it.
original Muppet movie is what I would have gone with. I watched some other stuff just in prep, like Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stoppin', which was fun to rewatch, and like Chicago, things like that. The only other one that I was really thinking about that I thought might come up was one of the versions of A Star Is Born. I didn't know if that was going to end up on here or not. But obviously Purple Rain just right outside of the 12th spot. You know, we can just go ahead and lock it in there at 12. But yeah.
I don't know. Sophie, what about you? Any honorable mentions you want to toss out?
Yeah, I think it's almost silly to have a movie like The Wizard of Oz on one of these lists, but The Wizard of Oz is obviously considerable, and I think Judy Garland's Over the Rainbow is an iconic musical performance that's notable. I also had Chicago on my long list, and another Disney animated movie that I love is Beauty and the Beast. I feel like it's one of the only princesses that was like relatable as a kid. Like she's smart, she's bookish, she's independent. Obviously, there's like the bestiality discourse, but it's a kids movie, so we're just gonna ignore that. I love A Star Is Born, the version. I can't wait for my
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I got.
Okay, that's fair. I got a really hot take. I think Beauty and the Beast is the best live action movie that Disney's made. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Live action remake or all live action?
I guess live action remake. Disney's made a lot of movies, so I can't give you like a power rankings right now, but I think live action remake. I think, Ben, I don't know if you got to it, but I know that I watched All That Jazz in preparation for this. That's very high on a lot of, like, if you Google like best musicals of all time, that's really high up there. I think I respect it more than I like it. I think it's a lot, and it's an incredible performance by Roy Scheider. I think it was nominated for like 9 Oscars or something. Yeah. Did you get around to watching that?
I didn't get around to watching it, unfortunately. While I was home for 3 days this weekend, I was sleeping for most of it, unfortunately.
I think for me, obviously Grease, I tried to put in there some of the really lower ones, like Across the Universe, or Tick Tick Boom for one of the newer things. If I was like making the whole list, I really was hoping that one of these two, either The Umbrellas of Cherbourg or The Young Girls of Rochefort, would make this list. I just watched both of these like within the last couple of weeks, and they're phenomenal. I think The Young Girls of Rochefort just completely floored me and is like my 3rd favorite musical of all time. Now, it's really hard to knock out La La Land and Singing in the Rain, but I think this falls like right behind it. Absolute wonderful movie, and I think the main actress in both of those movies is slowly becoming, like, I think probably the best and most gorgeous person alive ever. She's in a movie called Belle de Jour, which she's just sublime in that film as well. So yeah, I think I'm a little bummed didn't get some of my stuff, but we all used our vetoes. Ben, you used your veto override. Things got definitely more unhinged than last time. A lot more shaking and moving in this pod. It was a good one. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a blast. I got to protect the pride, though. The Lion King had to stay there for sure.
Yes.
This is terrible. Excellent. Okay, that concludes our second ever collaborative ranking draft here on this podcast. We definitely have more coming up in the future that we are planning on that will no doubt be exceptionally divisive, because Ben and I have very different movie tastes when it comes to certain filmmakers, and we shall see maybe how those very prominent and storied filmmakers land for their power rankings. Sophie, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for joining the madness that ensued for this collaborative rankings draft. If people want to find more of you, where can they find you at?
Yes, my TikTok is at the Sophie Network. I'm mostly on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it these days, at Sophie M. Holes. And I'm on Letterboxd, of course, at Soph Holes.
Do you have Queen of Musicals like in your Letterboxd bio? Is that something you will now be donning?
I don't, but I should. I should. I need to start using that.
Yeah, big time, for sure. Ben or Sophie, any closing thoughts? Anything you guys want to get off your chest before we get out of here that you maybe didn't get off?
We just got to do another one of these again. This was a lot of fun. I had a really good time.
Yeah, super fun.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, spicing things up. Next week on the pod, it's a mystery. I don't know. We're gonna see what happens. We were gonna cover Stop Making Sense. Unfortunately, Salt Lake City is being a little bit of a shithead right now, Danny Zuko style apparently, and not getting the movie until it goes wide in a couple of weeks. So we'll cover it when it comes out. If anybody wants us to cover anything in particular, Sophie, if you want us to cover a movie, just let us know. We'll definitely do it. But although I don't want you to have too much power on this pod, so we gotta rein it in a little bit. I don't know. So let us know. Hit us up on Twitter or anything, and let us know what movie to do. But Ben, mystery pod next week. I don't know, and you don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I'm excited for your review of South Park as well. By the time you're back here next week.
Yeah, look on my Letterboxd for this review. 5 star.
5 stars. 5 stars indeed. Let us know what you guys thought about this collaborative musical draft. I think we all had a blast. I'm curious what you guys think of the final results here. We are on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can watch us go through all this stuff. You can see Ethan lose his mind as I veto Grease and override his veto on Lion King, rightfully so.
God, the fucking 1-2 Raging Bull over here.
That's why I wanted that spot. I knew I needed it for you. But you can also support the show by becoming a patron. We do a Patreon show called 24 Minutes of Not A24, where we pick a theme and cover those movies that aren't in the A24 library. Right now, we're going over AI movies. We just talked about Blade Runner. We have Akira coming up, so go support us there if you'd like. If not, just keep listening. We appreciate all the support. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I'm Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.